On the I Love New Mexico podcast today, we have a guest that is doing something that was a complete surprise to me because I didn't know this sort of clinic existed anywhere in the state. But Mark McDonald is the executive director for Villa Therese. Mark, just tell people what the technical name is and who you are.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having us. And my name is Mark McDonald. I'm the executive director for Villa Therese Catholic Clinic. We have been around since 1937 and still, our mission still strong as ever today.
And what exactly do you offer?
So, Villa Therese Catholic Clinic is the only free clinic in the state of New Mexico. We are not a FQHC. We are not affiliated with any major health system. We are a nonprofit organization that offers free health care to anybody who walks through our door. Our target population, the people that we serve most, are those who are the most underserved in Santa Fe and Rio Arriba County, those who are underinsured, have no insurance at all. We really rely on them coming to see us. We believe that they deserve health care just as much as anybody else, and so our door is open to anybody who's having a hard time accessing equitable, quality health care. We provide medical services, dental services, and vision services.
It's crazy because I found out about you. I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening, at least in Santa Fe and Santa Fe County, but sort of in New Mexico. And then I had a meeting with my great friend Stephanie Hamilton, and she wanted to talk about fundraising, which we do at the Cancer Foundation for New Mexico at a really high level. And she mentioned the services you offer. And I said, what, wait, tell me that again, because you're saying that it's anybody who comes through the door. And is that really the truth? Anybody?
So we have a compassionate, no questions asked policy. We want this to be a place where people feel safe to come, regardless of their employment status, regardless of their insurance status, regardless of their immigration status, regardless of their religious affiliation. We really believe that, and we know that equitable healthcare, quality healthcare, is getting harder and harder to access. And our mission is to ensure that anybody who needs access to healthcare, we provide. Obviously, we're better suited for different populations than others. But yes, anybody who walks through our door receives the health care that they need, and we don't ask any questions. We just provide the care the best that we can. And so that is, one of our core missions and one of our core beliefs, and we hold to it.
I really, really like the compassionate, no questions asked policy, because that means there's not a judgment
Right.
about where somebody's coming from. So I want to tell you, when I was a single mom in Albuquerque and working, I was trying to finish my degree as well as working more than full time for a lot of different lawyers. And not that I wasn't compensated well, but I had no health insurance.
Right.
And I got a toothache that was excruciating. And the one place I could go then was a La Familia clinic down in the South Valley. And I remember going there and feeling some shame over it, because it was like, how did I get to this place where I don't have a I don't have a dentist on call, and I don't have the resources to just pay somebody at that time, what would have been $400 or $500 to fix what was going on in my mouth. And what I saw there, Mark, this really made a big difference for me. And it made me dedicated to nonprofits that help people in the way that you do. What I saw were a lot of people sitting, waiting, of course, because there was a long wait. But what I saw was people who had to navigate the bus system, or getting a ride from a friend, and especially the elderly and people on walkers. And I thought, how? I mean, I own my car. I have a flexible job schedule so that I can take 2 hours off and come and do this. But how do people navigate all that extra stuff? You know, the how do you find the bus schedule? How do you even find the bus that gets me there? And then how do I pay for this service? And it sounds like you're eliminating at least the barrier of payment and healthcare.
Yep. So we'll start with that point directly. We do eliminate completely any payment barrier. We don't ask patients for their insurance information. If they have insurance, we don't bill insurance. We just don't bill at all. We're a free clinic, meaning we don't get reimbursed by our patients at all. We rely on donors, grants, that sort of thing to keep our operations going. So that is the point of a free clinic. We're happy to be the only one in the state of New Mexico, but believe that those types of services should be expanded. As far as navigating the other difficulties, you're right. Uh, Coming and being seen at the clinic is only one small component of all of these different things that affect somebody's health. We call them social determinants of health. If they can't travel, they don't have the flexibility in their job to seek out health care. They don't have access to a place that really caters to their schedule because some people have more difficulty getting off work. It makes it really difficult for them to feel like they deserve health care. And so there's some of the things that we do to help address those issues. We recently relocated, about 2 years ago, we relocated from behind the cathedral to where we are now, which is 1779 Hopewell Street in the Hopewell Man District. And that makes it easier for some of our clients to reach us. We're in a more accessible location. We have bus stops on either side of us. And so we do have at least a little bit easier access via the public transit system. We also plan to and have previously, as we get back up and going with more staff and that sort of thing, plan to do outreach clinics. So we're actually going to individuals at shelters, at hopefully churches. We can take dental supplies and do dental education at schools and those types of things, because we really believe that, if we step out of the clinic and go to the patients, then it's promoting that equitable access to healthcare even more. In addition to that, I think one of the things that we've realized is jobs are not as flexible as they used to be, particularly when it comes to appointments. And our schedule right now is pretty fixed because we have a limited number of providers, but we're moving to and we're creating a strategy to say, okay, what is our what is our what does our target demographic need? Do they need us to be open after work hours? So do they need us to be open in the evening as opposed to 8 to 4? Do we need to consider moving some of our clinic days to the weekend so that we can get patients in who otherwise can't make it in during the week? And so all of those things are part of the overlook of what I'm focused on and how we can maneuver, change, be a little bit flexible to better reach our demographic, those who have the hardest time receiving health care. If you're not focused on that, then the point of existing is minimized, and so we definitely are remaining flexible, watching trends, taking surveys to those who feel comfortable sharing some of that information, and executing a plan to be a little bit more accessible.
Well, and I would think I want to be really sensitive when I talk about this, but I do know that we live in New Mexico in with cultures that are really we find this with the Cancer Foundation, really adverse to asking for help. That there's a big there's a large pride piece involved, even if you don't have any financial resources. And I know you probably have to navigate that every day, don't you?
It's interesting. I remember what you said just a minute ago about feeling a little bit of shame for going to this clinic that you went to. And um, I mean, I think we've all been in similar positions. I'm not saying that I know exactly how you felt, but I can say I felt similar in different points in my life. And even though you have what you feel like is a good job and you make money, and whether you have health insurance or not, sometimes you feel like, man, I just am stuck and I don't know what to do. And I think we do face that with our patients. I think patients come here and think, um, some think negative things about their having to come to a free clinic. I think our message is that, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, what your position is in life. You have a hard time accessing healthcare, you come to us, because really, if you are stressed about those types of things, it raises your cortisol level, your health declines. We want this to be a safe place. We want you to know that when you come through the doors, we don't see anything other than a human who needs health care. And I think that our staff does a really good job of welcoming everybody equally, making sure that everybody feels safe here, making sure that everybody feels like they are in a place that really promotes equity from top to bottom, side to side. It's really comforting for me to step out of my office and go and step into the waiting room and greet individuals regardless of what they're here for or where they come from, because the stigma around healthcare, particularly around healthcare for those who have the hardest time accessing it, really needs to be something we eliminate. When we have individuals, when we have mothers who can't otherwise get care for their children except for at a place like this, the shame should come from absolutely nobody, because we're caring for not only the child, but we're caring for that family, and we're doing things to make sure that those individuals have the best chance of success, the best chance of health. And that's what this country is all about. That's what this community is all about. And so, really, when you look at the core mission of what we do, we help individuals, and there's no shame in coming and saying, I need healthcare. There's no shame in it whatsoever, regardless of where you come from, who you are. Step through our doors proudly. I need healthcare. Can you help me? And we're here for you.
Well, and I think it's so interesting that you also offer, I mean, you don't just offer medical care, you also offer vision and dental, which is, I mean, I mean, uh, I know that good dental care contributes to longevity. And for that to be part of what you're offering is pretty amazing. I know that there are people listening who are thinking, well, I want to write a check today. Do you have a website where they can just go and push a button?
Oh my goodness, yes. Like I said before, we rely on small donations, private donors, and grants. And so, if anybody is wanting to donate to support our mission, they can do so by dropping off at the office, 1779 Hopewell. We also accept donations online. We have a robust platform with a lot of different areas where people can support us, and they can do that at viatherese.org. That's VillaTherese.org, and there's a donate section there. And they can also just call us and figure out different ways. We know a lot of people are not in a position to give financially, but they still want to support our mission. If you're a medical professional and you want to volunteer hours, if you are somebody who is good at graphic design and you want to help with our social media, if you are someone who has experience with office work and you want to help me organize paperwork, whatever you feel like you can contribute, those are all really important parts of making this mission work. So, um, obviously, we do ask the community for financial support. Without that, we wouldn't exist. But there are other ways people can help us, and every single way that people can help us is super important.
Well, and that's sort of community building too. We, there's something very cathartic for people. I mean, if you're listening to the podcast and you're perhaps new to New Mexico, or if you just feel like, if you're one of our listeners who's in, Dubai or Europe or wherever you are, and you feel like um, there's today is a day that's feeling um, slightly less productive or amazing than yesterday, I'm going to tell you that if you find a way to give to an organization like Villa Therese that's really cathartic in ways that you don't know until you get involved, and it's so important in terms of community building. And when I talk about community building, I don't just mean in Santa Fe or just in New Mexico, but I think across the world internationally, people helping people in the way that you do is so important. And is there a chance that you might expand to other communities, or are you just taking care of what you have in front of you right now?
Well, meeting our mission where we're at is super important to us, but we also realize that there is a huge need for this service throughout the state. Whether we expand personally or just become a model for free clinics in the state of New Mexico, is all part of our strategy moving forward. We would love to personally expand via Therese to different parts of the state, but we would also just love to have other people who have good hearts with a steady, firm mission to help people figure out how to do this work, because it's not always easy. And so, whether our clinic expands or whether we're just a model for other clinics, we want to be and continue to be the leader and make sure that these types of services expand all over the state.
Mark, I'm curious about you. What is your story that you ended up in this executive director position? Because you're obviously well educated and well spoken, and you could probably take a corporate job anywhere. Talk to me about how this became your part of your personal mission.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I started public speaking when I was young in high school, so it's one of my favorite things to do. I feel so fortunate to be in this position, and it is an incredible position to be in. And my road here is quite interesting, actually. I was born and raised in northern New Mexico, southern Colorado. We have a family ranch up there, and was raised in the Raton, Folsom, Des Moines,
Oh, that's
Trinidad.
cool. We're
And
probably
so,
cousins, Mark. Who knows? That's
oh, is
kind of
that
my
where you're
neck of the
from as
woods.
well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll catch up on that. Um, but I graduated high school from a little tiny high school in northern New Mexico, Des Moines, New Mexico. A lot of people probably haven't even heard of it. My graduating my graduating class was 13 people. It was the biggest class in a number of years, and um, when I was in my senior year of high school, I took an EMT basic course to be a volunteer EMT in that community, and kind of fell in love with the work. Kind of fell in love with the idea of being there to help people on their worst day. And uh, as soon as I graduated high school, I attended the University of New Mexico. I obtained my paramedic education, and I was a paramedic by the age of 19. It was hard to find work at the age of 19 as a paramedic because there weren't a lot of companies that would insure a 19-year-old. But I finally found work in Ruidoso, New Mexico, working on an ambulance as a paramedic. I worked ambulances for 3 years in southern and northern New Mexico. And at the age of 22, I started flying for a critical care helicopter flight company, Flight for Life service in southern New Mexico. And as soon as I kind of got my feet wet and got some experience with critical care medicine, I started flying in different parts of the state, picking up shifts and just really learning the need for access to quality healthcare in this state, and how important it is for people to not only be part of the system that delivers and preserves access, but to be an advocate for that access and that equitable access. After several years of flying, I joined the business development team. My job was I was a regional business development manager. I was over a large area of New Mexico where I was helping preserve this access. I was advocating for expansion of services. At the same time, our team was advocating for decreasing the cost of air ambulance services, because we know that that's an expensive thing. And so
It's
we were
quite
able
prohibitively expensive. Yeah.
yeah, so we were able to, during that time, increase the amount of business we had, which means more patients had access to this critical care than had they did before. And we were able to drive down costs in the state of New Mexico. I want to say when I left, it was like maybe close to $300 that patients were paying out of pocket. So we had this strategy of negotiating with insurance companies and decreasing the cost that patients paid for this life-saving access. It was a really good experience. It was really formative for my career, and I loved that job. But I ended up taking a position as a project manager running clinics in Mexico. I did some political advocacy. I ran for office several times, and through that, I met this organization that was doing work with migrants in Mexico. This was during some of the more difficult times, during some policies that kept migrants in Mexico as opposed to letting them seek safety and shelter during their asylum process in the United States. And so I linked up with an organization called Global Response Medicine. Global Response Management was its original name, and was a project manager for them in Mexico, and was able to run clinics for several years for migrants, free clinics. Our work expanded from the top of Mexico, and we had clinics in the bottom of Mexico. I
Wow.
also got to do some overseas work over the Atlantic Sea. Uh, I was also fortunate to be able to kind of help lead a project in Sierra Leone after a burn incident, and so got some experience in global medicine, and really kind of affecting those who really have a hard time accessing healthcare. And then I was a director of operations and strategy for that organization for a while. But I moved back to Santa Fe because I needed to be closer to home. And so that's kind of my background. And I was working on, when I got back to Santa Fe, I was working on an ambulance for 2 years. I kind of just needed a reset and kind of go back to my roots of what my mission in life is, what my core beliefs are, what my philosophies are. And to be honest with you, after living, in a place where you see so much and do so much for this population that really struggles, you kind of have to readjust to living in this society where you grew up in, because it was so different. So I took a couple of years, well, about a year and a half to readjust, worked on the ambulance. I found the job posting for Villa Therese, had no idea they existed. I lived here for almost 2 years and had no idea they existed. And so it was one of those happenstance type of situations, fell in love with their mission, and that's how I ended up here.
How lucky for Beatrice to have you with that vast amount of experience with different populations. I'm so excited that you are the person who's at the helm of this organization. eh, I'm from Logan, so I know where
Oh,
Des
okay.
Moines
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
I had 16 people in my graduating, maybe 17. Anyway, so I know about that small town upbringing. And um, my parents were volunteer EMTs in Logan for like 27 years.
Oh my goodness, I probably
So
know them.
I get, they've passed away. They both passed away last year, and
Oh, so
they where, my dad was 91, my mom was 89, but that was their deep love. I mean, you know what it's like to run an ambulance, and that, I mean, people would be in accidents, out by Nervisa or Amistad, and then um, somebody that didn't go to the hospital would come and spend the night with my folks for a couple of nights while somebody from across the country came to pick them up. And so
Oh,
there is this. I have a real heart for this sort of care for people, because there were so many times I went to visit them that, they'd get that 911 call in the middle of the night and I wouldn't see them again.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because it does that, especially rural healthcare, or even what you're talking about in Mexico, requires an entirely different type of energy and devotion than somebody who's, not that I wanted to downplay anybody who's in the healthcare field, but it does give you a completely different appreciation for your patients, doesn't it?
It does, and you have to, you really have to think outside the box, not only of how you're going to take care of them, but how you're going to sustain that mission. Because, you know what, it's not a secret that those types of departments that only get maybe one, two, three calls a year or a month, they're not funded as well as these larger departments, and of course there's a reason for that, but they need to be equitably funded. So not only do you have to think outside the box of how you're going to take care of your patient, you have to think outside the box of how you're going to be there for the next patient. And it was the same with working in Mexico. It was, how am I going to be here next week? How am I going to be here next month? How am I going to be here when the next wave of migrants comes through who needs just as much health care as this last bunch of migrants did? And so there's so many different considerations that I think people forget. And when you're talking about equitable access in New Mexico, in rural New Mexico, that's the majority of the state. The
It is.
majority of the state faces these challenges. How am I going to get my ambulance stocked? How am I going to afford to pay for the supplies I need to treat my next patient? How am I going to afford to fill up my ambulance with fuel? How am I going to, what's going to happen when I go out of the county on vacation and there's no one here to run the ambulance? I mean, all of those things are legitimate things. And when you're, a small network of providers in rural New Mexico, it's an incredible thing to watch these individuals get a call in the middle of the night, totally unsuspecting. Maybe they haven't had a 911 call in a couple of weeks, and they just kick into this isn't their full-time job. They just kick into life save mode, and they hop on the ambulance and they go and they take care of business, and they do it so well, and they're so underappreciated.
And they frequently, I might make myself cry here, but they frequently do it with people that they've known
Yeah.
always. There's a young couple that went to church with my parents, and they came on the ambulance to get my dad when he died at home last
Mm.
year. And they shed as many tears as the rest of us did, because they're so connected with their communities. But I get the feeling that regardless of what community you were doing healthcare in, you felt really connected to the patients and the care you were providing. It just feels to me like you have that sort of heart.
Oh, well, thank you. I've always felt connected to my patients. I think, bedside manner, making sure your patients feel safe with you is so important. And if you don't know what to do, if you have a complicated patient and you don't know how to treat them, the best thing you can do is go back to your basics. And one of those basics, the most important basic, is treating them like a human and making sure you show empathy and care and compassion. But you're right. When you are caring for a community that is tight knit, and you run a call on someone that you've known your entire life, that is particularly difficult. There is no undermining that. It is a completely different experience, and that's what our rural providers face. You're right.
So, Mark, we've got to wrap this up at some point. I could talk about this forever because I care so much about people getting to the care that they need. I mean, that's why I'm such an advocate with the Cancer Foundation for New Mexico. But you are doing a fundraising event in October. That's what Stephanie came to talk to me about. So tell people what it is. I don't. You're probably sold out already, but who knows? I want people to know what you're doing to raise money right now that they could, if they wanted, get involved with.
Absolutely. I want to first give a shout out to our fundraising committee in charge of this gala. They're doing an incredible job. I mean, the our clinic has not seen this type of fundraising effort if ever, on a specific issue. So thank you to them. What we're doing is our annual gala fundraiser. So we're hosting a night of music and fun. We'll have both a live and a silent auction. It's going to be at the Inn and Spa at Loretto, and we're just going to have a wonderful time with our supporters, attending a gala to talk about the work that we do to celebrate 87 years of that work. A special guest speaker is going to be Sister Pat Marie Bernard, who was the executive director for over 20 years for the organization. We have some incredible items up for auction, including a all-inclusive trip to Nuevo Vallarta and Tuscany, and there's just so many cool things that this committee has made happen for that night. Tickets are $150, so when you're thinking about a sponsored bar and really wonderful dinner and a night of music, 150 is not a bad price, and it all goes towards taking care of our patients. So it's 150 per ticket. We also have sponsorship opportunities available for anybody who wants to be a sponsor for the event, and all of that information is available at our website, villatherese.org.
And what's the date?
October 5th. It starts at 5:30 p.m. It will be inside because we know things can be a little chilly around that time of year,
Right.
but we're looking forward to it, and Inn at Loretto is doing an incredible job accommodating us, and we're so grateful.
Okay, so I want everyone to go to the website. On this podcast, in the show notes, there is a link to your website and to your social media links so that people can find you. And I'm if you have sponsorships available, I'm going to say right now that I'll be a sponsor. So I'm so excited.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well,
Yes.
we appreciate that. And to those who are considering supporting us, whether it's with the gala or otherwise, I want to send a personal thank you because I'm so fortunate to see this team active, engaging, and changing the lives of patients every day. So your support is something that is so personally important and so something I'm so grateful for. So if you're considering that, know that from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of our staff's heart that we truly appreciate every single donation, whether it's $5 or whether it's $5,000 or whether it's even bigger or smaller. We just can't be thankful enough for your support.
Because when you give like that, you get to change other lives, but you also get to change your own. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yep.
Mark, this is so much. This has been so, um, it's been fun to visit with you, but it also fills my heart. So I'm so excited that you agreed to come on the show. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you. Thank you for having us. And any way we can get the message out about the services we offer, we'll do it. And so we really appreciate you having us.